Welcome to the virtual presentation of the 2020 Atlantic Book Awards. It has been the custom to start our annual celebration by acknowledging the land on which we gather for the Atlantic Book Awards Gala. With this year's presentation being held online, we're aware that a singular land acknowledgement does not capture the richness of our distribution across many locations in Atlantic Canada and beyond. Because the majority of the organizers of the Atlantic Book Awards and Festival are located in Kjipuktuk, also known as Halifax, we would like to share the land acknowledgement that is used here. This virtual celebration was produced in Mi'kma'ki, the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We recognize the peace and friendship treaties signed between the British Crown and the Mi'kmaq from 1760 to 1769. We are treaty people, and we have rights and responsibilities as Mi'kmaq and settlers alike. People watching this video from elsewhere are invited to consider their own position with regard to the land where they find themselves. We're delighted to present all the outstanding authors, illustrators, and publishers shortlisted for awards this year, and to announce the winners of the 13 different awards that make up the Atlantic Book Awards. We'll begin with the two awards that honor an author's first book. They are both named for Margaret and John Savage, who in the late 1980s established the city of Dartmouth as a regional leader in celebrating Atlantic books and writing. Here are this year's nominees for the Margaret and John Savage First Book Award, Fiction. Terry Doyle for Dig, published by Breakwater Books. James Gregor for Going Dutch, a novel, published by Simon & Schuster. Amy Spurway for Crow, published by Goose Lane Editions. And the winner is Amy Spurway for Crow. The jury for the Margaret and John Savage First Book Award had this to say about the winning title. Amy Spurway's debut novel, Crow, is gritty, raw, funny, unexpected, and heartfelt. Crow tells the story of a woman, nicknamed Crow, who leaves behind her glamorous life in Toronto and returns home to Cape Breton after she is diagnosed with inoperable brain tumors. Now living with her mother in a small trailer, Crow reconnects with the eccentric and quirky people from her past and untangles some family secrets. The novel's remarkable cast of characters will make you laugh and cry, sometimes on the same page. Kudos to the three nominees for the Margaret and John Savage First Book Award for Nonfiction. Gemma Hickey for Almost Feral, published by Breakwater Books. Lois Legg for Wounded Hearts, Memories of the Halifax Protestant Orphans' Home, published by Nimbus Publishing. Alison Watson for Transplanted, My Cystic Fibrosis Double Lung Transplant Story, published by Nimbus Publishing. And the winner is Gemma Hickey for Almost Feral. Here's what the jury had to say. Gemma Hickey writes with honesty and heart. Almost Feral is not an easy story, but it's an important one. Gemma's strength and bravery shine through in every part of this journey, from childhood to adult, and from one side of Newfoundland to the other. Through beautiful prose, the reader travels Gemma's 908-kilometer walk, an endeavor to raise money for survivors of religious institutional abuse, and experiences lessons in faith, tolerance, identity, solitude, and love. The Alistair MacLeod Prize for Short Fiction was inaugurated in 2016 to honor the legacy of one of this region's and this country's most gifted and admired writers. Here are the 2020 nominees. Ian Colford for A Dark House and Other Stories, published by Vagrant Press. Terry Doyle for Dig, published by Breakwater Books. Martha Wilson for Nosy White Woman, published by Biblioasis. And the winner is Martha Wilson for Nosy White Woman. One of the jury members called Nosy White Woman thoroughly enjoyable, compelling, and very deserving of this award. She wrote, "The stories were all so real and relational, dealing with the connections and complications found in human interactions. Martha Wilson brings wit, humor, and compassion to all the characters' struggles and concerns. I look forward to reading more from Martha Wilson." More than a dozen works by Atlantic Canadian scholars were submitted for this year's Atlantic Book Award for Scholarly Writing. Entries epitomized the award's central criteria: likeliness to have a significant literary, social, and academic impact in the areas of social sciences and humanities. Here are this year's nominees. Ree Kroll for Shaped by Silence, Stories from Inmates of the Good Shepherd Laundries and Reformatories, published by Iser Books. Lyndon McIntyre for The Wake, The Deadly Legacy of a Newfoundland Tsunami, published by HarperCollins Canada. L. Jane McMillan for Truth and Conviction, Donald Marshall Jr. and the Mi'kmaq Quest for Justice, published by UBC Press. And the winner is Jane McMillan for Truth and Conviction, Donald Marshall Jr. and the Mi'kmaq Quest for Justice. This is what the jury had to say. What a story! Donald Marshall Jr. is well known for being at the center of two of the most important legal sagas in Canadian history. Truth and Conviction not only retells those stories and puts them in a single volume, it also gives us invaluable insights into the challenges of actually carving out Indigenous justice in the white man's world. Author L. Jane McMillan, Marshall's one-time partner and his co-accused in the fishing dispute, is a recognized scholar in this field. Through her, we get an account that is at the same time intimate, comprehensive, instructive, and inspirational. The Evelyn Richardson Nonfiction Award is named for the Governor-General's award-winning author of We Keep a Light and is one of 4 Atlantic Book Awards administered by the Writers' Federation of Nova Scotia. Here are the nominees for this year's Richardson Award. Mark de Villiers for Hell and Damnation, A Sinner's Guide to Eternal Torment, published by University of Regina Press. The Honorable Dr. Mayanne Francis for Mayanne Francis, An Honorable Life, published by Nimbus Publishing. Amy McKay for Daughter of Family G, a memoir of cancer genes, love, and fate, published by Knopf Canada. And the winner is Amy McKay for Daughter of Family G, a memoir of cancer genes, love, and fate. Here's what the jury had to say about Amy's book. In this deeply affecting memoir about living with hereditary cancer, Daughter of Family G's pugilistic protagonists are none other than free will and foreordination. With a reporter's eye and a poet's grace, Amy McKay writes perceptively, hauntingly, wisely, and even tenderly about them, knowing that the skin she has in their game is her own. This marvel of personal journalism is essential reading for anyone who ever had a hope. The Democracy 250 Atlantic Book Award for Historical Writing was inaugurated as a legacy project following the 2009 celebrations of Nova Scotia's pioneering role in Canadian democracy. Here are this year's nominees. Marion Bruce for Listening for the Dead Bells, published by Island Studies Press. Gerald Hallowell for As British as the King, Lunenburg County during the First World War, published by Nimbus Publishing. Andrew Theobald for Dangerous Enemy Sympathizers, Canadian Internment Camp B, 1940 to 1945, published by Goose Lane Editions. And the winner is Andrew Theobald for Dangerous Enemy Sympathizers, Canadian Internment Camp B, 1940 to 1945. One of the jurors for this award described Andrew's writing in this book as very accessible and easygoing, condensing written and oral history into a captivating narrative about internment camps in New Brunswick. Our next two awards celebrate excellence in books for children. The Anne Connor Brymer Award for Atlantic Canadian Children's Literature was established by the family of Anne Elizabeth Connor Brymer, a dedicated educator and Atlantic officer for the Canadian Children's Book Centre. Here are this year's nominees. Sherry Fitch for Everybody's Different on Everybody Street, published by Nimbus Publishing. Wesley King for A World Below, published by Simon & Schuster, Paula Wiseman Books. Rebecca Thomas for I'm Finding My Talk, published by Nimbus Publishing. And the winner is Sherry Fitch for Everybody's Different on Everybody Street. The jury had this to say. Sherry Fitch's unique voice, its powerfully charming and sure rhythms and rhymes, has given us a children's book that is undoubtedly a classic. Its playful rhymes celebrate the beautiful uniqueness of all people, while reminding us that there is always more than meets the eye. While we all have hopes and dreams, some of us struggle in ways that aren't always easy to see. Yes, we are all beautifully and inherently unique, but it is equally true that we are also deeply, intrinsically connected. Sherry Fitch has written a love song for the world. The Lillian Shepherd Memorial Award for Excellence in Illustration is named in honor of a longtime buyer for The Book Room in Halifax, a lifelong lover of books. Here are the illustrators shortlisted for the 2020 award. Denise Gallagher, illustrator for Peg Bearskin, a traditional Newfoundland tale, written and adapted by Andy Jones and Philip Dinn from a story told by Mrs. Elizabeth Brewer, published by Running the Goat Books. Danielle Loranger, illustrator for Un géant dans la tête, written by Danielle Loranger, published by Bouton d'Or Acadie. Sydney Smith, illustrator for Small in the City, written by Sydney Smith and published by Groundwood Books. And the winner is Sydney Smith for Small in the City. The citation says, "Our jury began discussing this book by talking about Sydney being a genius. His work is so amazing that a reader doesn't need to read the words but can follow the story through the illustrations alone. Indeed, the most powerful moment in the story has no words, just a full-spread illustration that creates a poignant and crucial moment in the plot. This book is much like a graphic novel in that it guides the reader to experience the story through the illustrations, and the text can be minimal because the illustrations say so much." The Jim Connors Dartmouth Book Award for Fiction is named in honor of a longtime supporter of the Dartmouth Book Awards. Here are the books shortlisted this year. The Difference, written by Marina Endicott, published by Knopf Canada. Broken Symmetry, written by Rosalie Osmond, published by Nevermore Press. Crow, written by Amy Spurway, published by Goose Lane Editions. And the winner is Marina Endicott for The Difference. The jury called Marina's novel well-crafted and exquisitely written, and described it like this. What on the surface is a good rollicking nautical adventure taking us from Yarmouth, Nova Scotia to the South Pacific Seas is actually a vessel embodying the emotional and soul-searching journey of self-discovery taking place in the minds and hearts of the main characters. The jury said that, among other things, the novel explores notions of what constitutes home and family, finding one's way in both the physical and moral world, and, with ties into the history and devastating consequences of the residential school system in Canada, reconciliation on a personal and global level. Endicott creates a stunning world that is equally heartbreaking and breathtaking. The J.M. Abraham Poetry Award is named in memory of Father Joseph Murray Abraham, a missionary and humanitarian and a prolific writer. It is administered by the Writers' Federation of Nova Scotia. Congratulations to the 2020 nominees. Tammy Armstrong for Year of the Metal Rabbit, published by Gaspereau Press. Anne Compton for Small Holding, published by Fitzhenry and Whiteside. Lucas Crawford for Belated Briss of the Brainsick, published by Nightwood Editions. And the winner is Lucas Crawford for Belated Briss of the Brainsick. In its citation, the jury said, Lucas Crawford's Belated Briss of the Brainsick is filled with wit, humor, and fearless vulnerability. Using every tool and toy at his disposal, Crawford dazzles with tightly crafted formal poems, list poems, prose poems, an erotic short story, multilingual puns, and coinages that fizz and zip through the book, revealing the emotional, mental, and physical fallout of a family secret finally exposed. These zesty, brutal, punny, lusty poems explore a harrowing chapter in the poet's life, but never tumble into the echo chamber of confession. Instead, Crawford reaches out to the reader with compassion and insight. We need more poems like these. The Robbie Robertson Dartmouth Book Award for Nonfiction is named in honor of Robert Archibald Robertson. When he passed away in 2010, this community leader was the longest-serving member of the Dartmouth Kiwanis Club, who sponsored this award in his memory. Here are the books nominated this year. Grandfather's House, Returning to Cape Breton, written by Clive Doucette, published by Nimbus Publishing. Daughter of Family G, a memoir of cancer genes, love, and fate, written by Amy McKay, published by Knopf Canada. Ghosts Within, Journeying Through PTSD, written by Gary Leach, published by Fernwood Publishing. And the winner is Amy McKay for Daughter of Family G, a memoir of cancer genes, love, and fate. Here's what the Dartmouth Book Awards jury had to say. Even though it's a personal story, McKay tells it in a way that makes it a universal experience. McKay writes with a passion that is absent of self-pity. It's about a love between child and parent. The reader grows to love her ancestors, and her descriptions of her ancestors make it feel like McKay knew them personally. This book stirs up emotion and shows McKay's courage. In sharing her story, she brings what has plagued her family to the world. Sharing her experience is a courageous thing, and her story deserves to be celebrated. We're down to the last two awards. The Atlantic Publishers Marketing Association Best Atlantic Published Book Award goes to an Atlantic Canadian publisher whose book best exemplifies excellence and achievement in publishing. The jury for this award considers all of the elements involved in getting the book in the hands of readers. The author of the winning title also receives a cash prize. Here are the exceptional books nominated for the 2020 award. Almost Feral, written by Gemma Hickey, published by Breakwater Books. I Lost My Talk, written by Rita Joe, and I'm Finding My Talk, written by Rebecca Thomas, companion books, both illustrated by Pauline Young and published by Nimbus Publishing. Land Beyond the Sea, written by Kevin Major, published by Breakwater Books. Before we reveal the winner, the jury wanted to share that they were extremely impressed with the amount of work that Atlantic Canadian publishers put into the marketing and promotion of their books. They wrote, "At a time when it's more vital than ever that Canadian readers are aware of and have access to Canadian books, the jury wishes to commend all publishers who submitted to the Best Atlantic Published Book Award on the strength of their promotional endeavors and the hard work, energy, and imagination put into marketing these books across our region and beyond, from small local communities to international markets." The winner of the 2020 APMA Best Atlantic Published Book Award is Breakwater Books for Almost Feral by Gemma Hickey. About this book, the jury said, "Almost Feral is a significant achievement and a brave book, documenting prominent social activist Gemma Hickey's historic 908-kilometer walk across Newfoundland to raise funds and awareness for survivors of religious institutional abuse. In a well-put-together narrative, Hickey delivers a remarkable story of self-discovery, engaging in topics of LGBTQ+ rights, abuse and recovery, and community. A bold and impactful book, published with impressive sales results and wonderfully received." And finally, we have the prestigious Thomas Raddall Atlantic Fiction Award, named for Thomas Head Raddall, author of such classic novels as His Majesty's Yankees, The Governor's Lady, and The Nymph and the Lamp. T.H. Raddall's son, Dr. Thomas Raddall, was instrumental in creating this generously funded prize in his father's honor. At $25,000, the Raddall is the largest literary prize in Atlantic Canada and one of the largest in the country. It is administered by the Writers' Federation of Nova Scotia. Congratulations to all three nominees for the 2020 Thomas Raddall Atlantic Fiction Award. Jamie Burnett for Crocuses Hatch from Snow, published by Vagrant Press. Michael Crummy for The Innocents, published by Doubleday Canada. Shandy Mitchell for The Waiting Hours, published by Viking Canada. And the winner is Michael Crummy for The Innocents. Here is the jury's citation. The perfect marriage of language and content, Michael Crummy's masterpiece distills the history of Newfoundland's colonization into a dark creation myth set against the presence of the island's indigenous people. This epic tale of two orphaned siblings, the daughter and son of two stray settlers, transcends realism and conventional historical fiction to capture the terms of their survival in a raw, visceral way. A brilliant novel of darkness and light, of violence and familial love that achieves the realm of myth, The Innocents is an allegory for our time, not just about individuals' resilience, but about our communal need to embrace the newcomer and the familiar as a matter of survival. Hats off to all the nominees for all of the 2020 Atlantic Book Awards, and congratulations to this year's winners. While we're sorry we couldn't gather for an in-person gala this year, we look forward to hosting all of the 2020 winners at next year's gala, slated to take place in Halifax on May 13th, 2021. Core funding for the Atlantic Book Awards and Festival comes from the Department of Canadian Heritage via the Canada Book Fund. The nonprofit Atlantic Book Awards Society is grateful to all our sponsors and supporters and wishes to extend particular thanks to Halifax Public Libraries for their assistance with our virtual festival. Thank you for watching, and keep reading Atlantic Canadian books.